welcome to All Creatures Animal Hospital Puppy Talk. Again, my name is Gabby, and today we're going to be talking about heartworm prevention. So, we're just going to talk about the importance of heartworm prevention, why we recommend it, and some different products that you can definitely look into and get started if you haven't already started heartworm prevention. But super important, especially with us living in a very hot state that we get seasons, but not as much as like a northern place. But it's super important to stay on top of the heartworm prevention. They're transmitted through mosquitoes, and easily, can be contracted, through whether your dog's an inside dog, an outside dog, and even cats. And today I have a little bit of a PowerPoint that I'm going to try to share to the screen, so we'll see how this works. But just to show you kind of some pictures of the products, because I'm a visual person and I think it's always great to have some pictures and stuff to look at. But why we recommend heartworm prevention. So heartworms are transmitted through mosquito bites. So even though your dog may only go outside for a very short period of time, your cat is indoors, never goes outside, mosquitoes still travel into the house. And just recently, I feel like it's gotten so worse, so much worse with mosquitoes. I've been getting bit up left and right. So, they're definitely able to sneak into the house. When you come inside, you have the window open. And just one bite from a mosquito can transfer heartworms. If they bit a heartworm positive dog or a heartworm positive cat and then come into your house and then bite your animal, if they're not on prevention, they're not protected. So super important, to be on it all year long. Like I said, we don't get cold enough for mosquitoes to completely disappear for a long period of time. So it's better to be on those preventatives all year long. It's hard to predict the weather. One day it can be cold, the next day it can be warm. So, staying on top of a prevention is the best thing because it is a very costly treatment. It's not, something that's super easy to fix. It's a long treatment as well. It's not something that, just gets cleared up in a week. It's months of medications and getting back on a heartworm preventative and taking the tests, to make sure that they're heartworm negative. So there is a lot, that comes to it when you could just get the preventative and be on it monthly and just make sure that all your bases are covered. That's definitely the most important. When you come in, for your first visit, whether you have a kitten or a puppy, we do get you started on a heartworm prevention as well as a flea and tick prevention if we have those items in stock. And those heartworm preventions, our Interceptor is a very common one for puppies, as well as Revolution that does fleas, ticks, and heartworms. There's a ton of products out there, and I'm going to give you some of the products that we recommend that we know work really well. They're easy, to give to your dog or cat. So I'm going to try and do this share screening to go to my little PowerPoint I have and see if I can do this. So, sorry, I'm going to have to go to the top here and get started. So, just looking at this PowerPoint, this just kind of shows a map. So you can see where there's an average number of cases, and in Georgia, we're somewhere between the lighter red, pink, to a darker red, so there's a lot of cases, so it's something that's very common in our area. But just seeing this kind of puts into perspective, why it's so important to stay on these preventatives. I liked this little test your heartworm knowledge because, there are a lot of myths. There's things that you read out on the internet that may not be 100% true, and this just kind of puts into perspective. All my stuff that I've gotten is from the American Heartworm Society, so it is, actual factual information, from the Heartworm Society that we get for the animal hospital, just being in the animal health field. So one of the questions, or one of the true or false statements, says my dog can get heartworms from playing with another dog that has them. That's false. So heartworms can only be transmitted through the spread between pets through the bite of an infected mosquito. So it's not something that's like an intestinal parasite. It's only related to, mosquito bites is what I'm trying to say. So the other one is, this one does talk about cats a little bit. So getting heartworm disease isn't a concern for my cat. So it is a concern. So even though your animal is not outside, it can be a fatal disease if it's not treated properly or not caught in enough time. So it is important for cats to be on these preventatives as well. And then some of the other questions that you can kind of go through, once dogs have been treated for heartworm infections, they're immune to future infections. That is false. So even though they get heartworms once and are treated, they can get it again. It's not something that's a one-time thing and you'll never hear from it. Those mosquitoes are still around, and so being on a preventative is even more crucial to make sure you're on it, every month, and you're doing it right on time, because they can get it again. And it's very costly. You don't want to have to make them go through that. It's pretty much it's worms in their heart. That's, can make it difficult to breathe, can make it difficult for them to obviously do their normal activities, exercise, things like that. So it's something that's super uncomfortable, that if we could just keep them on the preventative and be on it every 30 days, that would be the best thing for your little guys to be healthy and happy and have a long life without any kind of little bumps in the road. Another one is, there is another one. So number 8, the American Heartworm Society recommends year-round prevention against heartworms for dogs, cats, and ferrets. So that's true. Like I said before, we can't predict, what the seasons are going to be like. Sometimes we have warmer winters, sometimes we have cold winters, and we don't know, or falls. And so it's just better, it's true that, we recommend just being on it all year long to make sure that you're covered. And if there happens to be a change in temperature, where we do get an influx in mosquitoes, that we're not putting, our babies at risk. So a big thing with getting heartworm prevention is that, it is required for our pets to get a heartworm test. And I know that a lot of people, I've heard and, seen like that it's not necessary. And you can't just give a prevention without knowing that, your pet is negative first, because if they're positive, it would require a completely different treatment, and sometimes it can harm them for being on a preventative when they have, there's certain medications that they're supposed to be on, there's certain activities that they can do or restricted from doing when they have heartworms. So it's super important to get your heartworm test, and we recommend these on a yearly basis. And you need that negative heartworm test to get prescriptions for your heartworm preventative. These heartworm preventatives are not over the counter, so it's not something that you can easily get at PetSmart, Petco, or you can order on Chewy without having a written script from your licensed veterinarian. So getting your heartworm test, super important. It's something that at All Creatures, we recommend as part of your yearly. Pending on, if you're doing a full blood work panel, there's little snap tests that we can do in-house, which like on here, it says it's just 3 drops of blood and takes 10 minutes or less. Sometimes we do recommend sending it off to the actual lab, and that can take 24 hours to get those results back. But it's a super easy test to make sure that these guys are negative, and we can continue with the proper, prevention as far as the heartworm preventative. And it shows on here, only 4 in 10 dogs are on heartworm preventative. So it's a really small amount, and only 1 in 10 cats are on heartworm preventatives. So, not a lot of animals are getting tested on a yearly basis, and that's, I feel is just because a lot of people don't understand, and I know, it's overwhelming, especially when you have a new puppy or a new kitten, all these different things that you have to keep up with on a monthly, on a yearly basis. But for me to be able to give this information to you guys so is super important. And I think these graphics too just kind of help just show the importance of being on these preventatives. And just like they said, you know, even though you may be giving it, sometimes with the topical products, they might have spit it out, or the oral products, they might have spit it out if they didn't like it, because we all know some of our dogs are very sneaky and like to eat the treat around the pill when you've ever had to give other antibiotics or whatnot. Or the pet could have rubbed the dose off, or could have gotten a bath and the dose may not have had the proper amount of time to soak in. Or you could have missed a dose by mistake. We totally understand. I am not, you know, I'm going to be honest, there have been months that I've missed it for my own cats. And, you know, it's normal. We all have busy lives. There's a lot going on, especially in this day and time. So, you know, it's not uncommon for people to miss a dose or give it a little late, but that's why it's so important to do your heartworm test every year, and why we recommend it to get that done. So these are just some kind of little heartworm tall tales. So again, we were talking about the weather. Heartworms are only transmitted in the summer, which is not true. So they can still get inside. You know, we may have winters that are not as, you know, cold as others. So we still have mosquitoes that are around. And the other one I wanted to point out was that, you know, heartworm, you know, a lot of tall tales are that heartworm prevention isn't worth it. But when you really break it down, depending on the product, now sometimes it's more expensive because you're getting more coverage. Some of these heartworm preventatives do more fecal parasite protection as well. But you can get preventatives that cost, you know, less than $10 a month. But then in comparison to if you don't do the preventative for the heartworm prevention and then you treat them for getting rid of heartworms, it can cost more than $1,000. And so it's just a smarter decision in the long run for your pockets to be on top of the preventative, and as well for your pet to have them not have to go through doing that treatment and the lack of activity and things like that, and the risks that come with having heartworms. So it's really not, it doesn't have to be super expensive to get the heartworm prevention. We have some products that we'll talk about that are really easy that I think can fit into anybody's lifestyle, whether you want to worry about giving it monthly or things that, you know, you only have to do an injection for 6 months that lasts. So we definitely have a lot of different options. This just talks about how heartworms can infect. So obviously the mosquito bites an infected dog, and then it goes into biting, you know, a healthy dog that's not on the actual preventative, which is how they can be transferred. So it's super easy for that to happen. It can be just one little bite, and, you know, then you'd have to do the treatment for that. So this just kind of shows you how easy it can be for your dog to get heartworms without you even knowing it. And then the same for cats. So same concept. If they bite an infected dog or cat, then the same concept. They're able to, if the cat gets bit by the mosquito, the same mosquito, they're getting the heartworms transferred as well. And with cats, there isn't a treatment for heartworms. So, you know, with dogs, you're able to do the treatment, but it's more expensive. But for cats, there isn't a treatment available. So it's super, you know, important to keep them on preventatives too, whether they're indoor, outdoor, just have them on the prevention. So one of the products that we have in the clinic is called Proheart 6, which is awesome. It's an injectable heartworm prevention that lasts 6 months. So it's something that they can start at 6 months of age, which is great. It's a little poke, and then they're good for 6 months. You don't have to worry about giving it a preventative for that. The only thing you have to worry about is staying on top of the flea and tick prevention. So Proheart is a great option. We typically recommend pairing it with some Perica which is a nice combination to have all that flea and all the tick prevention, as well as then having the heartworm prevention lasting for 6 months that you don't have to worry about it. And we try to line it up with your semi-annuals and your yearly exams so that when you're coming in for your yearly, you can get your injection. And then we do recommend you coming in 6 months later for your semi-annual, just a physical exam to make sure everything looks good, sounds good, and we can do your Proheart at that time as well. And it is very cost effective. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, for under 25 pounds, it's only $45. Of course, as you get, into your bigger pups, it gets a little more pricier because it's more product, but I think it's great. I wish they had that for cats because then I wouldn't have to worry about doing that monthly and chasing my cats around. So I think it's great to have. This just talks again just more about the one dose to protect your dog, from heartworm disease. So this just kind of talks about more of the Proheart benefits. By just getting the one injection, you can protect them for 6 months. There's a new product that just came out too. So Perica I was talking about for the flea and tick prevention, which there is a regular Perica, but now they have Perica Trio, which is the first really 3-in-1 product that does a really good coverage of flea, ticks, and heartworms. There is other products out there that we'll talk about further on, like Revolution, that does fleas, ticks, and heartworm. That's a topical version. This is an oral tablet that you give. But Revolution only does one kind of tick versus the Perica Trio does more species of ticks. So this is something new. This one can be started at a younger age, so you can start your puppies at 8 weeks of age, which is awesome. So that's something that just came out on the market not too long ago. And if you're interested in that, all of these different products, if it's not the Proheart that you have to get in the clinic, we can help you order these on our online pharmacy at Vet's First Choice, and you can have it directly sent to you, which is awesome. I always recommend with our puppies that are growing to start with doing either a dose at a time or like a small pack, like a 3-month supply, because they can grow out of that weight range pending on the different weight ranges of the products. So to not have to worry about returning the product or not having the right size, it's always best until they're full grown to get a small amount at a time, but to make sure you have it on hand so you're ready to give when they're due for it. The other one I was talking about is Revolution. So before Perica Trio, this is typically the go-to because it's safe for these guys to get at a small weight and a small age. So at 8 weeks of age, we typically do the Revolution, the puppy, which I said again does fleas, one species of tick, and heartworms. I love Revolution because compared to other topical products, it's not oily. It dries in a couple of hours. It's always worked great. It really just kind of depends on your lifestyle. If you're going to be out in the woods doing a lot of hiking, or you have a heavily backyard with a lot of heavy trees and bushes, I'd recommend, not doing Revolution. But if you're not in that kind of environment, Revolution is great to do because you don't really need all that tick preventative. You can always add, a collar or something to that, like a Seresto collar, to do more flea and tick prevention in addition to the Revolution. But I use Revolution for my cats. It works great. It dries really quickly. So that's another product that we typically start them with as puppies, and then you can continue that until either if you want to stay on it or if you want to switch to like the Perica and Proheart combination when they're 6 months or older. That's really it as far as the little slideshow that I had. But I just think, having these little pictures really shows just more kind of the importance of heartworms, so that you kind of know what is recommended and why we recommend it, and we're not just trying to sell a product. So we just want to have everybody's baby have the longest, lifespan, a healthy life, and we just want to give you all the tools and the knowledge to be able to make the right decision and get these products. So, make sure you're on top of your heartworm prevention. If you can't remember, what we had done on your first visit, if you came in for your new puppy or kitten, just give us a call and we're more than welcome to look, at what was given. Sometimes, a lot of the time, especially too, because it's been a little hard to get a whole lot of products available just because a lot of the production of stuff has, slowed down quite a bit. Interceptor has been one that we've been giving out, which is Heartworm Prevention. And then Credelio Interceptor, that's typically another combination that we do. That's a flea, tick, and heartworm. And those are great products as well. But just making sure every month you're on top of that heartworm prevention. So whether it be Interceptor, if your baby's 6 months or older, you could do Proheart. Or you can, stick with the Revolution, or, possibly look into doing this in Perica Trio. There's Trifexis out there that does fleas and heartworm. It doesn't do any tick prevention. So there's a lot of different options. And if you're confused or you look and do some research and you have some questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can call the companies. We're here to answer any questions or concerns that you have. But staying on that heartworm prevention, super important, making sure you're doing it, every 30 days to protect these guys from mosquitoes, because I know they are just out there, and I feel like they're really fierce right now with it being kind of muggy and hot. And we've had a little bit of rain and some storms recently. So just keep our babies protected from these heartworms. And, if you haven't gotten started on a preventative, come in. We can do a heartworm test and get you started so that we can get that protection going. And yeah, so I hope you got enough good information from this video, and hopefully the PowerPoint turned out pretty good, so you guys are able to see all of those pictures and stuff. But that is all I have for heartworm prevention today, so please let me know if you have any questions. Leave a comment on the video. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback to know if you enjoy these videos, and if the information I'm giving you is, of value to you and you enjoy it. So I definitely want to hear some feedback. But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next weekend. Thanks.